Hello everyone, this is part 9 of What If Naruto and Sakura Had a Kid, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. It was a much shorter trip back to Konohagakure. Some of the Anbu reinforcements stayed behind to offer help to the village, while others provided safe escort to nearby towns. The few that remained stumbled wearily back to Konoha with Shino, Ino, Sakura, and an unconscious Naruto. Sakura had never left his side as they traveled. She spent any downtime attempting new and innovative medicines and techniques to help restore Naruto to his former self. Each time, she was brought to tears by her failure, much to Ino's dismay. As they arrived at the familiar doorstep of the Leaf Village, the Hokage, Shizune, Jiraiya, and Kakashi were there to greet them. Upon seeing the missionaries, Tsunade and Shizune tore away from their male companions to assess the team's health. When they were satisfied that everyone was fine, they turned their concern on Naruto. Tsunade frowned while she read Naruto's chakra output. Shizune chewed her lip nervously as she fluttered about the Hokage. Sakura was too exhausted to speak, watching her master with unspoken words of concern and fading thoughts of hope. I think we should get him to the hospital, where we can better manage his health, the voluptuous blonde leader suggested, as Jiraiya and Kakashi joined the group. Sakura nodded her understanding as Shizune began to monitor her child. The baby is fine, the raven-haired medic thought with relief. Sakura was glaring at her, as if reading her thoughts, upset that anyone would doubt her concern for the child's safety. Shizune guiltily averted her gaze. Tsunade sensed the tension among the group, and met each and every gaze with feigned confidence. We will see Naruto smile again, do not worry. Right now, everyone needs to rest while we get him into the hospital. Do not lose trust in us old folks just yet. She managed to gain a few weak smiles. Ino and Shizune walked on either side of Sakura as the pregnant woman wordlessly followed the Hokage to the hospital. She would rest when she was sure Naruto would be fine. Part of her wondered if she would ever see him smile again. Ino watched her friend with worried concern. She had seen the change in Sakura since they had found Naruto lying in the subpar conditions of the massive building. With each failed healing, Sakura became more and more desolate. Ino had never seen her in such a state of despair, not even when Sasuke had left the village to take vengeance on his own brother. They had been rivals for most of their early childhood, each vying for the attention that dark-haired ninja. Two silly girls fighting for one foolish boy's love. She smiled at their bull-headed stupidity. They had come a long way since then, rebuilding their lost friendship. They had picked up the pieces quite easily, discovering each other along the way. She could think of no better place to be than next to her best friend, the sister she never had. As time passed, and Sakura began to excel in medicine and shinobi skills, it became apparent to Ino that something was blossoming between Naruto and Sakura, though Sakura had been blind to Naruto's playful advances. She wasn't entirely surprised to find that Sakura was carrying Naruto's child, as Ino felt it was only a matter of time. Though she had expected them to be in a relationship for a while prior to starting a family. Regardless, she had seen Sakura change as a woman in love. Not just love, but devotion. She was utterly devoted to her child as well as its father. That much was obvious by the way Sakura so boldly forced her way into this mission, as well as her pig-headed idea to preserve her body so that if anything were to happen to her, the child could survive long enough for a forced birth. Ino sighed, thinking about that conversation. Ino was impressed with the skill of the seal, but was not happy that Sakura had anticipated the possibility that she would not live to see her child's birth. Of course, the seal would store enough chakra to keep Sakura's heart and lungs working in order to promote the child's survival. The stored energy would also speed up the cell migration, making days of fetal development seem like mere hours. It was a crafty technique, Ino would admit that, but without proper provisions it could possibly backfire. Though perhaps asking Sakura how it would benefit if she were decapitated was not the right way to broach the subject. She smiled at the yelling that ensued after Ino made that point. It was a valid point, she smirked to herself. Though she knew very well that Sakura would never risk her child in such a manner, her unspoken love for the tiny being obvious to everyone on the mission. That will be one spoiled little girl, Ino thought. Yes, she had peeked at the S of the baby. She had already purchased a few purple items for the child that she had stored in her studio apartment. Hey, a godmother has to be prepared, right? She asked herself, smiling naughtily. What are you smiling about? Shizune whispered, her voice breaking into Ino's thoughts. Huh? She asked, still dazed from her wandering thoughts. Nothing. A sudden twinge of familiarity pricked at the hairs on the back of her neck. Her eyes became dim with concentration as Shizune watched the silent conversation take place. Ino suddenly blinked, her eyes shifting into focus. She looked to Shizune, determination in her expression. Shizune, you can watch over Sakura, right? I have something to take care of, I'll meet you back at the hospital. Shizune could sense that Ino was not sharing something. She street USD the blonde before shrugging her consent. Sure, Ino. Great. Thanks, Zune. Ino grunted, disappearing before Shizune could reprimand her informal address of her elder. Daddy, I'm here, Ino. Where? In my office, doing the books from this month's sales. I see you are safely back from your mission. Success. That's what I need to talk to you about. Is everything all right? I'll be there soon, Daddy, on my way now. Ino shut off her telepathy as she raced to her father's office, hoping to convince him to give her the information she needed. She wasn't sure he would cooperate, but the situation was dire, and she was sure that she could help. She reached her family's flower shop, pushing the doors open as the familiar smell of herbs and blossoms emanated throughout. She breathed deeply, enjoying the relaxation the tiny shop could bring. She leaned over to smell blossoming hydrangeas, her favorite flowers. They were late blooms, but the delicious smell was well worth the wait. She gingerly touched the purple and green petals, enjoying the velvety touch. The sound of her father clearing his tea interrupted her joyous discovery, as she remembered the task at hand. She pushed his office door open, peeking into the dimly lit room. Her father was hunched over his paperwork, writing furiously. Daddy, she said softly, in her most endearing voice. Ino. He looked up, smiling at his daughter's well-being. How was your mission? You could have sent a carrier bird, your mother was worried about you, as usual. It was, somewhat successful, she answered, ignoring his mention of her mother. That was always another story, and right now, the focus on Naruto. I could sense something from you when you contacted me. What happened? Was someone injured? Anoiki asked with concern. Well, she began, should she tell him about her near-death experience? Probably not. Naruto isn't doing well. He's in a coma, she blurted. Her father street USD her face for some time. He knew his daughter was quite close to the young man, though he was unsure of her relationship to him. He had figured it was purely a mutual friendship, but he never knew with his daughter. But you think something else is going on, he finished her thoughts. She nodded. Of course he could read her mind. It was the Yamanaka clan's Kekai Genkai. I don't think he's controlling it, she answered cryptically. Something else is causing his coma. Her father asked, his eyes narrowing. I don't think he's in a coma. I think the, demon. Ninetales, is causing his mind to shut down. He was poisoned and I'm not entirely sure why it would do that, but I think it was a sort of protective mechanism, she gushed hurriedly. And you think this, why? Her father asked as he rested his chin on his interlaced fingers. He watched his daughter carefully, reading her expression and movements. He was impressed with her intuition. Because I read his brain waves, she explained. They aren't like those of normal coma patients. It's more like he is sleeping. I think that perhaps I can wake him. That should fix the problem, if I am correct. Her eyes were pleading for a cause she hadn't yet presented. He could tell that she was keeping something from him. If you are correct, he emphasized. And if you are not. He watched her carefully choose her words. Then it will do no harm and he will remain as he is currently, a living vegetable, she responded gravely. Her eyes never leaving Anoiki's. I see. And you wanted to discuss this with me for what reason, Ino? He said, going back to his paperwork. She stood there wringing her hands for a few moments. She wasn't sure how she should approach the idea with her father. She took a deep breath, speaking slowly. I wondered if you think, if that, a technique of Granddaddy's would Perhaps, be something I could use to help Naruto. There. She said it. He had to understand where she was going, right? He looked up at his daughter, meeting her worried gaze. I have no idea what you are talking about, Ino, he replied as he picked up his pen to continue his accounting. Ino could feel the anger rising inside of her. But, you know what I am talking about, Daddy. It's the only way. We have to be able to see what's going on. He has a baby on the way. And Sakura is just devastated. He can't stay like that. We have to help, she blurted nervously. Inoki stopped what he was doing, rubbing his temples lightly. Ino, what is this about? I do not know what you are talking about. Can I help him? I can try. But, don't you think Tsunade is much better suited to take care of this situation? He knew he was playing coy with his daughter, but she couldn't possibly remember his father's mind warp technique. She was much too young to remember such things. Ino gaped at him, her mouth open like a fish out of water. Are you playing games with me? I'm a godmother, Daddy. A godmother. It's really important that I look out for this child. Sakura is my best friend, and I won't let her down. I'm going to help, no matter what. If you won't help me use Granddaddy's mind technique, then I'll just use it by myself. I've read about it, you know, researched it, even, she turned with a flip of golden blonde hair. So that was it, he told himself. She is going to be a guardian for this child. She's finally learning responsibility. He smiled slightly, his only child was maturing. He felt his chest swell with pride at his daughter's outburst, despite her rudeness. So she did know about the technique, clever girl. He sighed to himself, it was pointless to continue this charade if she was aware of her grandfather's signature jutsu. He removed his glasses from his face as she pulled the door open toward her. Ino, he said, softly. She hesitated, turning her face slightly, yes, father. Quote. He cringed at her change in tone. Her address indicated she was cross with him. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how important Naruto was to you. I misjudged your dedication, he said earnestly. Ino turned to glare at him with ice blue eyes. She spoke slowly, I know about the mind warp technique. I think I can do it, but I would really like your help. If we can see what's going on inside of Naruto's head, perhaps we can help him wake up. I've thought about it the entire trip home, and I think it is feasible. But I need you to help me, Daddy. He nodded his understanding, it's a dangerous technique, Ino. If you forget that you are entering his mind, you may lose yourself in there. Even I won't be able to help you. He spoke softly, his voice full of concern. Ino lowered her eyes in worry, I know. I'm afraid, too. But, it's the only thing I can think of. Please tell me you will help me. I can do it. Inoki watched his daughter carefully before replying. I can see you are serious, and I do not doubt that you are capable. But even the most capable user can be pulled into another's mind unexpectedly. I have only attempted the technique a handful of times, so my experience is limited. There are a few things we should go over before you commit yourself to this. There are things you should first understand. Take a seat, Ino. I'll go get my notes and we can discuss this over tea and cake. Does that sound agreeable? Ino's mouth twitched into a familiar smile as she tried to mask her triumph. She would help Sakura, after all. But what do you plan to do once you are in? Her father silently sent her. I don't know. I'll think of something. Ino furiously retorted. She was frustrated that her father was not satisfied with her answer. But, the truth was, she didn't know. How would she know what to expect once she entered another person's mind? It wasn't like she did this every day. You should think about that, Ino, before you make an impetuous decision, he warned. She could sense his tone through the telepathic connection. She could even imagine the rare frown that was currently on her father's face. Let me know what the Hokage thinks of your hypothesis, he requested. I will, Daddy, was her silent reply. The blood was hammering in her ears as she ended the connection and sped toward the hospital. The sun was slowly rising over the eastern trees, and she hadn't slept at all. Inoki had discussed the risks of the technique her grandfather had mastered. Though Inoki had used the technique on occasion, he was in no way adept at it. It was that fact that allowed him to worry about his daughter's hasty decision to use it on Naruto. Ino understood her father's concern, but she had to do this. Her father's concern was fully deserved, she knew. Her grandfather had driven himself mad by attempting to use his technique on a prisoner of war, so her father alluded. She cringed at the story Inoiki had shared. She changed her thoughts to Sakura and Naruto. She had seen the way Sakura and Naruto had grown closer over the past few years. She had seen his stolen glances of adoration, and she had heard how tenderly Sakura spoke of the silly boy. A small part of her would admit jealousy at the sheer compatibility of the two jonin, as she had yet to feel anything remotely similar about anyone she had met. No, Ino could not fault Sakura, as Naruto was both an amazing man and friend. He was loyal and self-sacrificing. It was that same self-est that led him to his current condition. Ino felt honored to be able to offer any assistance to Naruto, as he had relentlessly laid down his life for her on numerous occasions. And for the village, she told herself as her feet silently took her through the streets of the slumbering town. Ino was terrified of using a technique she had yet to master herself, but given her instant adeptness of other clan traits, she had no worries that this would be dissimilar. So she hoped. In a blur, she rushed past the sleeping visitors in the waiting room while she quietly entered the large ward. She quickly felt for the familiar chakra, indicating where Naruto's room was located. She knocked lightly as she entered the large room. From the size of the room, Ino knew it was a birthing suite. Leave it to Naruto, she thought. She found him lying in bed, looking the same as before. His face was much cleaner and the bruises were gone. Sakura, she told herself. Ino, you better have a good reason for barging in here so early, she heard the Hokage's commanding whisper. She turned to find Tsunade seated in the high-back chair, reading a medical textbook, or so Ino guessed. A quick peek over the top of the book confirmed her suspicion. Tsunade-sama, I needed to speak with you, Ino croaked. Tsunade answered by raising a finely shaped eyebrow, motioning for her to continue. A quiet whimper interrupted Ino, as she turned to find Sakura sleeping on the futon next to the bed. She continued to watch Sakura as she spoke, privately. The fifth nodded, rubbing her weary eyes as she softly closed the large book. She followed Ino outside the door before leading the younger medic into the adjacent private room. Spill it, please, Tsunade commanded. She had a feeling Ino was up to something. I'm sure you've realized that Naruto is in an unusual sleeping state, and not a coma, Ino began. She was answered with a nod. Well, I think I know of something that can help. Tsunade eyed the young jonin carefully. It wasn't like Ino to offer medical advice so freely. She wasn't entirely sure she would like what the blonde Yamanaka would suggest. Please share, Ino, Tsunade said carefully. My grandfather had mastered a very precise technique that can infiltrate someone's mind, she began. Mind walking, Tsunade interrupted. She hadn't expected Ino to suggest such a highly controversial approach to Naruto's condition. Ino weakly nodded. She could tell from Tsunade's tone that this was not something the older woman would approve of. I think that's too risky for you, Ino. It requires very minute and precise chakra control that even your grandfather struggled with. Your father dabbled around with the technique in his younger years, deciding it was too risky for the user. I know, Ino said, her shoulders slouched in defeat. Her father had told her the same thing. She refused to be talked out of it so easily. Tsunade-sama, if you can think of anything that may help Naruto's current condition, please tell me. If you cannot, then allow me to at least try. Tsunade was taken aback by the blonde's brazen statement. She wasn't used to Ino's newfound aggressiveness. Not in regards to Naruto, at least. She sighed, Ino, it's not safe. It's too risky. I know. I've heard it all. This isn't something I've just researched and want to try, Hokage. I've been attempting this technique for a few years, ever since I learned of it. I tried it with a few patients here and there, mostly those who were comatose. Slowly I could feel myself more quickly accessing their minds and the cluttered thoughts. It's difficult to explain, she spoke quickly, as if she feared the Hokage would interrupt. Do you remember that one ancient, old woman? The one whose house collapsed in that storm last winter. We thought she was in a coma and would never wake up. Ino, she was my age. That's not ancient, she began before realizing what Ino had shared. She gasped, yes. But, why you didn't? Ino nodded. I did. The older blonde watched her in wide-eyed amazement. She had suspected some outside means for the woman's sudden revival, but she had no proof. Now she did. How? Ino grinned sheepishly, mind walking. It took a few tries, but I finally figured it out. It's like dreaming while awake. Except not. Again, it's really difficult to explain if you've never done it. Sunad watched her in awe. I had no idea. I had my suspicions, but never of you. I'm completely at a loss for words, Ino. Ino met her stare with confidence, so, will you let me try? For my goddaughter, please. Suan was not bemused by Ino's pleading, as she felt it was something that may have worked on Inoiki. Shino had shared the events surrounding Ino's sacrifice and near-s for Sakura. Sunad was positive this was Ino's way of repaying her best friend, but she didn't want to speculate that thought aloud. She thought for a few moments before speaking. First, we must set a few ground rules. 1. Does Inoiki know of your plans? Ino nodded. I spoke to him prior to coming here. He was not enthusiastic, but he will back me up if needed. Good. Second, what do you need and who do you need to watch over you? Ino thought about the question. I would prefer Sakura not know. She would only worry. My father would be good to have on hand. And you as well as Shizune, in case anything should happen. Sunad considered it. Perhaps Shizune should stay with Sakura. We could have Kurenai keep her company as well, she agreed. Great. But first, could I have a few hours of sleep? I think that may be a good start. Naruto's condition is stable for now. I'm sure it won't change, Ino speculated. Sunad smiled in agreement. Perhaps this might very well work, she thought as she let her eyes wander over Ino's tired complexion. I think sleep would suit you well, Ino. But first, I think I need to reprimand you for taking it upon yourself to find out your godchild's gender. Ino was caught off guard by the comment. Oh come on. Like you didn't peek, she huffed. Sunad's slight blush told Ino that she had done so as well. As she began to giggle at the Hokage's own unprofessional behavior, the fifth's face grew dark and menacing. If you tell anyone about it, I'll you myself. Understood. Ino awoke after a few hours and found her way to Naruto's room, fresh-faced and revived. There were many visitors in the waiting room, hoping to catch wind of any news of their friend. Ino patted Shikamaru's shoulder as she passed into the ward, promising him he would be the first to know. Everyone was weary from the lack of sleep due to their concern. Daddy, I need you at the hospital. Ino silently sent to her father. Moments later, she received his reply. He was on his way. Ino walked into the room, unnoticed by Sakura, who was silently studying Naruto. Sunad and Jiraiya were watching quietly. She looked to the Hokage and the older man, letting her eyes fall on Jiraiya's hand as it sat on the older woman's thigh. He winked at Ino, while Sunad gripped his hand so fiercely Ino thought a few bones were crushed in the process. How's he doing? She whispered to Sakura. The pregnant medic looked up at her friend, her eyes betraying a smile. Oh, he's doing fine. Hopefully he'll wake up soon, she trailed off. A knock at the door interrupted Ino's next comment, as Kurenai entered. She peeked her head into the room, looking for Sakura. Sakura, want to join Kakashi and I for dinner? You should eat something. You have to stay healthy for the baby, she warned softly as she slipped into the room. The thought of the baby sobered Sakura's senses, as she looked around the room. I guess there are enough people here to keep him company, she sadly replied. She slowly raised herself off the floor with Ino's help. Much to Sakura's dismay. I'm not a whale, she grumbled. Says you, Ino rolled her eyes. Sakura put extra force into squeezing Ino's hand. Ouch. The blonde yelped, I was only trying to help. She rubbed her sore hand. So you say, Sakura replied, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. Forehead. Pig. Lass, if you don't stop, I'll have to separate you two, Suand warned. All three broke out into laughter. Sunad hadn't seen Sakura this animated since her return. Sakura, I'll stay and keep an eye on him. You go with Kurenai. Enjoy dinner. Take your time. Sakura Street USD her mentor, before nodding. But if anything were to hap, she began. It won't. And besides, I'd send word, Sunad replied waving for Sakura to take her leave. Sakura turned to Ino, aren't you coming? Ino was caught off guard. No. See can't. Have to work at the shop. I'm on lunch break, I just wanted to stop by. You know, see how things were going and all, she waved frantically. Sakura Street USD her suspiciously before exiting the room behind Kurenai. Ino sighed. Good thing you aren't going into espionage. That was the worst lying I think I've ever seen, Jiraiya pointed out. Bite me, old man. Ino growled. Jiraiya grinned. Until Tsunade punched him. He slinked out of the room with a whimper. Daddy, where are you? Ino whined through the telepathic portal. I'm here, came the gruff reply as the older Yamanaka entered the room. I told the nurses not to let anyone into this room. For anything, he said as she shut the door. Ino pulled a chair to the head of the bed, as her cold fingers rested on either side of Naruto's head. She knew that direct contact wasn't required, but she wanted to do so as a reminder to her body that whatever she saw in his mind was not real. She knew it was dangerous to get reality mixed up with the consciousness of others, as it could lead to a disaster for her own well-being. As Anoiki had warned her, if she ever started to feel like the mind's surroundings were real, she could find herself trapped in that void for eternity. She gulped at the thought. I was much better off not knowing that, she told herself. She heard the scraping of the chair as her father sat next to her. I'm going to keep our connection open, so that if anything happens, or if you need me, you can call, he informed her. Got it, she said, closing her eyes and focusing her chakra. Are you sure you are ready, Ino? No one will blame you if you choose not to do this, or if it doesn't work, Tsunade spoke with concern. Ino sighed, it will work. And I'm ready, I will blame myself if I don't do this, she silently thought. She slowly opened the connection between the two minds, focusing her chakra on the gateway. She quickly felt herself being drawn into the darkness of Naruto's mind. Everything was deathly silent, it was a calming sensation. Suddenly, a shrill scream tore through her as she was pulled through the portal between reality and Naruto's consciousness. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.